my death, we're not going anywhere, and they got the blue face paints and they're yelling, and that's not what happens. Like he goes, hey, if you're scared, you don't want to fight, 22,000 are like, peace, I'm out of here. See ya, good luck, Gideon. Yeah, hope to see you around. You're like, yeah, not really, but they take off. They go home, they leave him. So now here's Gideon, and he's probably thinking to himself, okay, that's a blow. That's a blow. I went from 32,000 to, I lost 20,000. At least maybe 12,000, right? I was a terrible math student. So he got 12,000. And I mean, again, he's in bad straits, but he's probably thinking to himself, well, worst case scenario, I lost all the cowards, right? Like they probably would have run once the fighting got tough anyway. So he's like, okay, I've got some hardened troops here. I can still do this. I can still come up with a strategy with this. Well, God comes to him again. He's like, hey, look, I'm just going to let you know, Gideon, you still got too many troops. Gideon, like, what, really? And they asked him to do something really seems kind of strange, really weird. But he says, here's what I want you to do, how to weed out the rest, to get it down to the number of troops I want you to go into battle with. I want you to take them to a stream, and basically those that when they drink the water, they pull it up and they lap it, but they're looking out, still aware of their surroundings. I want you to keep them. So he does that. Well, guess how many actually do that? I mean, rather than just like going and dropping their head in there and just drinking, only 300. 300. So here, Gideon's gone from now 32,000 to 300. But here's the thing, is that even though his numbers dwindled, the promise was still the same. See, we sit there and look at it, and I'm sure Gideon probably looked at it like, oh my goodness, and insecurity, by the way, can make us look at it this way of like, oh man, it's 300 versus 135,000, and make that 135,000 look like a million. It's impossible. But the truth was, again, Gideon's strength wasn't in his ability. It wasn't in his strategy. See, the promise, why God could sit there and say, no, it's like you've been fighting against one, is because your strength is in me. It's not in you. And so, basically what he's encouraging is to say, hey, look, Gideon, if you'll just step out in faith, and not faith in yourself, not faith in your own ability, not faith even in your faith and positive thinking, I can do this, but faith in who I am. Listen, I'm telling you, that 300 is going to be more than adequate to do the job. That 300, it's going to feel like you're not fighting 135,000, but you're fighting one. The promise hasn't changed. And here's what I found. I found this, and maybe you found this to be true in your life sometimes too, is that I found that sometimes God reduces our strength to elevate his. Sometimes God reduces our strength to elevate his. Sometimes God will allow situations and scenarios to pull away some false sources of security in our lives, to get us to actually put our faith in the one strength that really is just that. The one strength that actually can deliver. He'll sometimes reduce our strength or allow situations where our strength no longer is in our job, or no longer is in our paycheck, or is no longer in our attributes or in our skill, to remind us again that the reason God chooses you and I and chooses Gideons in the world is not based on our ability. In fact, it's just the opposite. It's in our utter inability to do anything without him, to do anything of grand significance, to step into victory, to find freedom in areas. Listen, listen, our strength truly is, it's made perfect in our weakness, in our vulnerability, in our ability to surrender and say, listen, I can't do this on my own. God, I need you to step into this. My faith isn't in what I can or can't do. My faith is in you. And listen, God, I'm telling you, God won't fight your battles as long as you're building your armies. He won't fight your battles as long as you're building your armies, as long as you continue to try to cling and find your strength in this job or in your skill or in your ability or in this relationship. It's only when kind of, I like how the psalmist puts it, says, listen, my trust isn't in chariots, trust in horses, but we will remember, and our trust is in the name of the Lord our God. Again, God only fights your battles when you're willing to have the courage to stop building your armies, because here's the thing, you can never be too small for God to use, but you can be too big. You got to have the courage to simply recognize that your greatest strength is actually your greatest weakness. Of being able to say, look, I can't make it through this on my own. But here's the beauty, is I was never called to try to make it on my own. I need you, God. I need you, God. Again, it's faith in the size of our God, not the size of our issue, the size of our problem. It's not faith even in our faith and our positive thinking and Tony Robbins trying to do the thing. You know, I can make it through this. I can get through this. Faith is in our God. See, I don't like odds of 32,000 to 135,000. But I do like the odds of 300 to 1. And that's what faith does. Because the insecurity minimizes what God is able to do in my life. It magnifies the struggles. It magnifies the difficulties. It magnifies our enemy. It magnifies the struggle. But faith allows me to look in possible situations and circumstances and say, if God be for me, who can be against me? Faith allows you and me to look at cancer and say, if God be for me, I know what the doctors have said. I know what they've predicted. But listen, if God is for me, my strength isn't in a doctor. My strength isn't in my ability. My strength is in my God. If faith looks at a broken relationship and says, I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know if it can work. But my faith, again, isn't in my ability to fix this thing, to figure this thing out. My faith is in a God who nothing's too big. Nothing's beyond salvaging. Nothing's beyond saving. See, faith looks at 135,000 and only sees one. Every head bowed, every eye closed. I